I see we have some new faces in our little Zoom room, and we're glad to have you with us. We hope you'll consider becoming members of Wild Ones, our Wild Ones chapter, but our programs and most of our events are open to, to anybody. I'm Jerry Paulson. I'm the current vice president of the chapter, and the lady with the earphones is Janet Geeson. She's our treasurer. And let's see, Kathy Johnson is on here somewhere. She's our secretary. And I'm not sure I see any other of our officers, but anytime you're welcome to contact us if you have questions or suggestions. I wanted to remind you all to fill out your member survey and get it sent in. I think it's due by February 1st, along with the ballot for the election of the board and officers. And I didn't see Mark Luthen on yet. If he is, unmute yourself and review yourself, Mark. He he's arranged the speakers for our February program, and I'm quite excited about this. Two of the staff from the Boone County Conservation District are going to talk about the natural vegetation and ecosystems of Boone County, and then about the uses of our some of the native plants for medicinal purposes by Native Americans and the pioneers. And it's going to start with two video presentations. I think they're both about 10 to 15 minutes long, and then everybody will go into this kind of a Zoom room to answer questions. So Lisa, I don't remember the date on that, do you? So the third Thursday of February. And are there any other announcements that officers want to make, or?
The third Thursday is February 19th.
19th, okay.
Actually, it's 18th.
What? Oh, you're right. I was looking at Friday.
Friday. That's okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So tonight's program is about a topic that I've been interested for many years. With all my wanderings around the woods and byways of Winnebago County and neighboring counties, I've run into some of these trees I'm going to be talking about tonight, and I've been curious about them and heard some stories and doing some research on them. And so, and then I ran across this book called The Ghosts of Evolution by Connie Barlow. I have the reference in the slide program, but, she went into more great detail about 4 species of Northern Illinois woodlands that I'm going to be talking about tonight. And with that, I'm going to ask, it looks like you're already recording this.
Yes.
Great. I'm going to take me a minute to bring up my PowerPoint, and we will do the presentation at the end. We'll have a chance for questions. So I think everybody is muted. Okay. The species I'm going to be trees I'm going to be talking about tonight, I'm calling ghost trees. And the one that I'm going to talk about most are Osage oranges. But I'm also going to be talking about 3 other trees. These are all trees that grow in northern Illinois that have essentially lost the evolutionary animal partners that spread their seeds and kept them uh, to survive in northern Illinois. We are recording my presentation, the PowerPoint, and it will be posted on the Wild Ones website after tonight. So if you want to go back and look at it again or watch it again, you'd be welcome to. So Osage orange, or what some people call hedge apple, is a common tree of old hedgerows and field edges throughout northern Illinois. Its wood had many uses by early settlers. It was widely planted to form thorny hedges to keep livestock enclosed before the advent of barbed wire. And the softball-sized bright green fruit is often sold for holiday decorations. But this native species has lost the animals that it evolved with. The animals that ate the fruit and spread its seeds, making it one of several trees that are anachronisms or ghost trees. These include pawpaw, honey locust, and Kentucky coffee tree. Few animals now eat the fruit, seeds, and pods from these trees, leaving it to Native Americans, the early settlers, and us to save the species and to spread the plants to new habitats. Of course, humans have played a big role in pushing many species of native trees to extinction by introducing pathogens and insects that have wiped out entire forests, by destruction of their habitat, and of course now, climate change. But Osage orange is one of the species of native plants that has survived and spread because of human intervention. Osage orange was discovered by Meriwether Lewis while he was in St. Louis attending the transfer ceremonies of the Louisiana Territory from France to the United States in 1804, prior to embarking on the voyage of discovery. The story goes that Lewis obtained specimens of the Osage orange from a former Indian agent and sent live cuttings of the plant back to Thomas Jefferson, but those cuttings did not survive. In 1807, Lewis sent some more cuttings that did grow, and specimens of Osage orange trees growing at the University of Virginia are said to be direct descendants of the cuttings that were sent back by Lewis. The Lewis and Clark expedition would bring back more than 200 plant specimens, many that were new to science. The Osage orange was probably the expedition's most significant botanical discovery. Osage orange, Maclura pinifera, belongs to the Moraceae or mulberry family. It is related to breadfruit and figs. It is dioecious and wind pollinated, with the male and female flowers appearing in mid-June or in mid-May or June. The leaves are simple, alternate or in clusters at the end of short spurs. And the distinctive fruit contains many seeds, the size of grapefruit seeds, that are embedded in the fleshy calyx. It is a medium-sized tree that grows from 36 to 65 feet tall, has deep furrowed bark and thorny branches. The trunk divides into several limbs that spread into arching branches, and the roots spread laterally and form large clones if left unchecked. And this isn't a very good map. If you look hard, you can see the shaded area which is the natural range of Osage orange when Lewis encountered the species. It was found in the Red River Valley of Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. But even then, it was reported that it was spread to other areas by Native Americans. According to Meriwether Lewis, in the letter that accompanied the first shipment of plants to President Jefferson, Native Americans esteemed the wood of this tree for the purpose of making their bows. And they traveled many hundreds of miles in quest of it. Native American tribes in the plains used the strong yet flexible wood of the Osage orange to make superior quality bows. According to legend, a bow made from Osage orange was worth as much as a horse and blanket. French explorers called the Osage orange tree bois d'arc, French for bow wood. And early settlers soon discovered the many helpful uses of Osage oranges and spread the tree across the plains and other parts of the country. In fact, the Osage orange was one of the most important trees to early pioneers on the plains and prairies of the Midwest and West. The tree has no serious disease or insects problems, and the durable functional wood played an invaluable role in the westward expansion and settlement of the Great Plains. The wood of Osage orange is one of the hardest, strongest, and densest of all hardwoods. It has a higher BTU than white oak, hickory, or dogwood, so it burns hotter and longer, which is ideal for use by pioneers during the brutal winters on the plains and prairies. The wood of Osage orange is strong, hard, and resistant to decay, so it was the perfect material for railroad ties. In fact, railroad ties made from Osage orange wood lasted 20 years or more, while ties made from other wood needed to be replaced every few years. Osage orange wood was the material of choice for making wooden wagon wheels. The wood was durable and crack resistant, just what the settlers needed for their wagon wheels. And Osage orange grows easily from seed. The thick, dense branches are covered with long, hard thorns. This made them ideal for use as hedge fences to keep cattle in their pastures prior to the invention of barbed wire in 1874. Thousands of miles of Osage orange hedges were planted across the Midwest, eastern, and southern states, as well as the Great Plains, to contain livestock. The trees can grow up to 6 feet per year, and the thorny branches can be woven together to form impenetrable fences. Professor Jonathan Turner, a biology teacher at Illinois College in Jacksonville, brought the tree north, and it was promoted as a living fence by John Wright, editor of the Prairie Farmer. Turner thought that Osage orange was the best fencing material available, and that it could be used to make hedges that were horse high, bull strong, and hog tight. Once barbed wire came into widespread use, Osage orange made the ideal fence post. The rot-resistant wood could be easily fashioned into posts to hold the newly invented barbed wire. And following the Dust Bowl, windbreaks of Osage orange were planted to reduce wind erosion of soil in the Great Plains as part of the New Deal public works initiatives. The trees were selected for this purpose for their hardiness and because they grew quickly. Unemployed workers hired by the Shelter Break Project planted more than 200 million trees throughout the Plains states. Many of these windbreaks are still growing today. Pioneers placed the fruit of Osage orange tree in their cellars, pantries, and basements to keep insects away. They thought that the pungent odor of the knobby green fruit would keep cockroaches, crickets, ants, and spiders from taking up residence in their homes and cellars. This is now dismissed as a folk tale, but recent studies at Iowa State University have found a chemical compound in the fruit of Osage orange that does repel cockroaches. And the chemical properties of the fruit and seeds of Osage orange are now being studied for their antioxidant activity and for use as biofuel. So many of us only know the fruit of Osage orange as a holiday decoration. The unusual fruit is commonly collected and sold in garden centers and florists for use in fall and Christmas decorations. And I bet many of you still do that. Although the original distribution of Osage orange was restricted to the Red River Valley of Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, it was so useful to Native Americans and early settlers for soil conservation that it has been planted widely and is now found throughout the United States. If the tree had not been widely planted by humans, it would have likely become very rare, with specimens limited only to botanical gardens. Why? Because no living wildlife species is known to eat the large green fruit of the Osage orange tree or distribute its seeds. Hedge apples usually fall and lay on the ground until they shrivel or rot. Mice and small rodents will extract and eat the small, thin-coated seeds, and the occasional horse will chomp on the fruit, but that is not a good strategy for survival. Contrary to common belief, hedge apples are not toxic to livestock. Mostly they just don't eat them because they're too big. The big, fleshy, obvious fruit is an ecological anachronism, a nonsensical fruit that is missing the evolutionary partners that once feasted on it and spread its seeds far and wide. It's thought that hedge apples evolved as food for woolly mammoths, mastodons, giant sloths, prehistoric horses, and other prehistoric Ice Age herbivores that browsed on the canopies of trees. The large size and easy to see fruit forged a symbiotic relationship with prehistoric tree browsing mammals to spread its seeds. These had the proper kind of teeth to eat the fruit while not crushing the seeds. These large lumbering animals, unfortunately, were easily killed for food when humans arrived in North America 15 to 20,000 years ago. and they were quickly exterminated, leaving no one to eat the fruit of Osage orange. Connie Barlow called Osage orange and other trees ghost of evolution. Her book by that name expands on the work of Daniel Jansen and Paul Martin, who studied reproduction of trees in Central American lowland forests and noticed that the seeds of many neotropical fruits were left to rot on the forest floor, not eaten by any birds or mammals. They speculated that missing Ice Age mammals were the reason. Another ghost tree found in the Midwest that appears to be missing its evolutionary dispersal partners is Kentucky coffee tree, Gymnocladus dioicus. Kentucky coffee tree grows naturally in moist soils and bottomland forests or rocky open woodlands. Its range extends from the Ohio River Valley into New York, Pennsylvania, Indiana, and Ohio, Illinois, and it is found in isolated colonies as far north as Minnesota. Kentucky coffee tree is the only member of the genus Gymnocladus native to North America. The others are found in Asia. Although a member of the legume family, the flowers are not the usual shape. The trees reach heights of 18 to 30 meters and in open areas form a rounded crown, making it a popular ornamental tree in urban areas. Its alternate bipinnately compound leaves are the largest of any native tree species. They are some big leaves. The greenish white inconspicuous flowers appear in May and June. The trees are dioecious, so male and female flowers appear on separate trees. And the fruit is a flat, thick, woody legume pod that ripens in September or October that usually persists unopened on the tree until late winter or early spring. The wood of Kentucky coffee tree was used in cabinets, furniture, interior woodwork, and construction, and as fence posts and railroad ties. Although the wood is resistant to rot, a fence post can last for more than 50 years. It is soft and staples pull out easily. The pods, seeds, and leaves of Kentucky coffee tree are toxic to wildlife, and therefore they do not provide a source of food. The leaves, bark, and pulp were reportedly used by Native Americans to treat insanity, to combat fever, and treat headaches. A tea made from the leaves and pulp was used as a laxative. The seeds and pods can be poisonous if they're eaten without heat treatment. Some Indian tribes may have roasted the beans for food. And early settlers roasted and ground the beans as a substitute for coffee, which is how it got its name. The alkaloids in the seeds are neutralized in the roasting process. So here's a stand of Kentucky coffee tree, which grow right along Route 2, just south of Rockford, up along the bluffs of the Rock River. These are found growing in close proximity to a large Native American village site. How did they get there? Well, the seeds of Kentucky coffee tree are as hard as marbles. I've tried to crack the seed coat so I could germinate them by hitting them with hammers, by freezing them, soaking them in boiling water, and scarring them with serrated knives, all to no avail. The seed apparently needs to go through the digestive tract of an animal to break the thick seed coat. Unfortunately, nothing seems to eat the pods or the seeds. There is a Kentucky coffee tree growing next to the offices of the Natural Land Institute in downtown Rockford, where I used to work. The seed pods fall and just lay on the ground and slowly decay. The squirrels don't touch them. The seeds are eventually released and they roll into the flower beds and new seedlings sprout up. But that is not a good strategy for widespread dispersal of seeds of the Kentucky coffee tree. The Kentucky coffee tree is one of the rarest trees in our floodplain forests. Although its range is large, when it is found, it is limited to small colonies or a few trees. The seeds nestle in a bed of spongy, green, sweet pulp. The pulps contain saponines, which become soapy and slimy in water, and alkaloids that will kill fish if too many fall into ponds or streams. And livestock can get sick and die if they drink that water. The deadliest poisons are concentrated in the seeds, so I don't recommend that you eat them. The genus Gymnocladus seems to have originated during the Oligocene, about 30 million years ago. World climate was warm enough for the trees to grow in northern regions of the northern hemisphere. But the tree is careful not to expose its young leaves to frost. It is the last tree to leaf out in the spring. The pods hang on the branches well into the spring, and the pulp remains palpable during the winter. When they fall to the ground in the spring, they would entice ice age herbivores to eat the pods and swallow the seeds whole. A mastodon may have ground the pods between its large molars to get to the sweet pulp and then subjected the seeds to gastric acids before excreting them far from the parent. Now that these evolutionary partners are gone, nobody disperses the bulky fruit and large seeds of Kentucky coffee tree. The pods and seeds mostly remain where they fall. Luckily, the species reproduces by root suckering, so colonies can persist for decades or centuries. But Kentucky coffee tree did have one other partner in dispersal: humans. Like Osage orange, Kentucky coffee tree may owe its survival as part of our flora to Native Americans who planted it near their campsites and may have used the hard, shiny seeds for gaming, for beads, and in ceremonial purposes. Colonies of Kentucky coffee tree are often found near known Indian village sites, near Indian mounds, along the Pecatonica and Rock Rivers. And the northernmost colony of Kentucky coffee tree in the Midwest is found in Minnesota, growing below the Mississippi River bluffs within Effigy Mounds National Monument near McGregor, Iowa. Native Americans in the Great Lakes region used the roots, pulp, and bark of Kentucky coffee tree for medicinal purposes. And the seeds were used as dice or to keep score in a bowl and dice game played by nearly every tribe in the Great Lakes region. They are known to be used in healing ceremonies, in rattles, and made into beads for jewelry. And it is likely that many of these seeds were lost or discarded and eventually sprouted into trees. In his book, Vegetation of Wisconsin, John Curtis discussed the association of stands of Kentucky coffee tree with Native American village sites, like that one on the Rock River. The large, hard seeds of this species were used in a sort of dice game by various tribes. As a result, they were carried about when the tribe moved its headquarters, many becoming lost in the vicinity of the villages. At present, the species has a very local distribution in Wisconsin, with each locality at or near an Indian village. Because there are few other means of dispersal of the seeds, the Kentucky coffee tree exists today, and its current range is probably due to the intentional and unintentional planting by humans. A tree similar to Kentucky coffee tree is honey locust, Gleditsia triancathos. It has a similar growth form to Kentucky coffee tree and has long woody pods and hard-coated seeds like its distant cousin. A member of the legume family like Kentucky coffee tree, it grows naturally along rivers in our region, and seedless and thornless cultivars are planted widely in urban areas. It is a hardy and fast-growing ornamental that will tolerate harsh growing conditions found in parking lots and along city streets. Like Kentucky coffee tree, it is thought that the natural range of honey locust was extended by Native Americans who dried the pods, ground the dried pulp, and used it as a sweetener and thickener. They cooked the seeds and fermented the sweet pulp from the pods to make alcohol. The pods and seeds are readily eaten by cattle, goats, deer, and other wildlife. So the seeds, which are not digested, are spread widely, unlike the Kentucky coffee tree. But honey locust has an adaptation that seems to serve no useful function. Very large, sharp clusters of thorns that grow out of the trunks. Honey locusts have especially long, multi-pronged daggers on their trunks. These are much longer than needed to ward off deer and rabbits that eat the bark of young trees. But many of the large mammals of the Pleistocene were browsers. It is not hard to imagine that the spines on the trunks of honey locusts once protected the leaves and immature pods from excessive browsing by animals that disappeared over 10,000 years ago. They would have also protected the bark from being stripped by hungry prehistoric horses in the winter. The thorns of honey locusts no longer seem to serve any useful purpose. And for that reason, it makes the honey locust one of the ghosts of evolution. There's one more tree that grows in a region that retains characteristics of having evolved with prehistoric partners. The pawpaw, the Simina triloba. Pawpaw grows wild in 25 eastern states, as far north as southern Michigan and northern Illinois. The town of Pawpaw, Illinois, got its name from a pawpaw patch. It is found growing in moist, shaded, sheltered areas along small streams where it forms groves or patches. The reddish brown flowers have a leathery texture and a slightly fetid scent. The color and scent attract mostly flies, which are more common in early spring than other pollinators when the plant flowers. The flowers have to be cross-pollinated from genetically distinct plants to form fruit. And this is difficult when patches are separated by long distances. Pawpaw is the only species of the Ananaceae or custard apple family, which are mostly found in tropical or subtropical forests. It bears the largest edible fleshy fruit of any tree native to the United States and produces large seeds that have the ability to sprout in the shade of its parent tree. The fruit is readily eaten by bears, raccoons, possums, foxes, skunks, and other animals. The seeds are swallowed whole and excreted in dung, or they are spit out, but they are not chewed. The seeds contain a powerful alkaloid that is harmful to the nervous system of mammals not equipped to detoxify them. If the seeds are rarely dispersed by animals, how has this tree survived so long? The flavor of pawpaw fruit has been described as a blend of banana, pineapple, and papaya. The earliest European settlers of the eastern part of North America reported that Native Americans planted intended groves of pawpaw for the fruit and carried the fruit to their campsites. They did not eat the seeds as they were poisonous, so these were discarded and the seeds started new patches. Early settlers that moved into eastern states quickly discovered the delicious fruit and competed with wildlife to collect it when it matured in the fall. They even grew the fruit around their homestead. Pawpaw is rare throughout its range. A patch may be large, but they are separated by many miles, limiting the chances for insect pollination. Pawpaws are short-lived, so they have survived the lack of seed dispersal partners by cloning. Patches of pawpaws can be hundreds of years old, surviving by sending up new stems when the old tree dies. Pawpaw has survived since the end of the Ice Age and the loss of prehistoric megafauna with the help of human horticulturalists and its own cloning skills. So if you want to help the survival of pawpaw, plant one. Our Wild Ones chapter sell pawpaw plants in our fall tree and shrub sale, or you can order these plants online from many nurseries. So in conclusion, some of the most interesting and beautiful trees of northern Illinois have lost the animals that they evolved with to disperse their seeds and help them survive, leaving it up to us to plant these species in our yards, our farms, our parks, and our natural areas. We have become the dispersal agents for this trees by default. You may not want to plant Osage oranges unless you have a farm or a pasture that will accommodate them. But you can plant Kentucky coffee tree, and honey locusts are both attractive ornamentals and you can get cultivars that are thornless and seedless. Pawpaws require special conditions and care because we're at the northern edge of the range and they are not very tolerant to extreme cold snaps. They need to be planted in a place that is sheltered from bitter winds. So we haven't scheduled our plant sales yet, but if you want to keep track on our Wild Ones website, we will let you know when our spring wildflower sale is and when our fall tree and shrub sale is. Or you can call me at that phone number or send me an email at paulsonjerry@aol.com. I hope that you have gained a new appreciation of these ghost trees. If you want to learn more about them, here are some resources that you can find online or at your local library. The USDA NRCS plant guides are very good references for almost any species of native tree in North America. Just type in USDA NRCS plant guides on Google and they will come up. There's also many other references and fact sheets and photographs and nursery catalogs and everything you would want if you just search online. So I'm going to end here, but I'm going to leave the slideshow up, and if so that I can refer to any slides that you might have questions about. If you have a question or just need to unmute yourself because we can't see you while the slideshow is up. So you need to unmute yourself and just ask your question.
Jerry, do you know when we might have meetings again? This is Dennis.
We're hoping that we will be able to start having meetings again at Rock Valley this fall.
Okay.
We have scheduled all our programs for the year, and we've been telling our presenters that be prepared to do them online, but we hope that we'll be meeting again starting in September.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Jerry,
Yeah.
this is Bob Revlo. I just put that on the chat and commented that there are several Osage orange trees on Sandy Hollow Golf Course. And I know there's one on the far west side at Clem Arboretum. It's off the trails, but it's back there.
Well, they're actually quite common all over, although out in the farm areas, the farmers have bulldozed down the old Osage orange hedges for the most part.
Yeah.
A lot of the photos that I took myself are from an old hedgerow down along Roswell Road, south of Rockford.
Oh.
So you can find them in a lot of places. And I know people that are actually planting them as wildlife. They're good wildlife cover. The birds like to nest in them, but the fruit doesn't serve much purpose. Thanks, Bob. Any other questions?
I know Ruth Little was given a Kentucky coffee tree years ago, and it did well. It did so well, she was getting sprouts all over. It was spreading it was too successful in their yard. So
Yeah, I didn't know that they suckered like that. When she told me that story, I thought,
oh,
maybe they gave her something else by mistake, but it is actually true that Kentucky coffee tree will sucker and form and spread all over, kind of like a quaking aspen do or a black locust. So that suckering characteristic, I think, is common in the legumes.
Jerry, what is the northern edge of the range for the Osage orange?
Well, it actually goes all the way up into Canada now. Do you want to see the map? I mean, it pretty much, because it's been planted all over, it seems to be hardy all the way up into Canada. Kentucky coffee tree is more limited range, and the pawpaw is very narrow range. honey locusts are pretty common. I'm going to stop the slideshow so I can see everybody's faces now.
Okay.
And we can still talk if you want.
So the pawpaw fruit, what's in there, like vitamin C, or do you know what's, other than it tastes pretty good apparently?
It's a very, very tasty, like a banana, but it's usually
Pineapple.
overripe banana. I've tasted it. But you usually can't find them because the raccoons get them first. But they do sell, some people do sell them in stores.
Oh, okay.
So Jerry,
I imagine that it has citrus,
Okay.
Vitamin C and stuff. Yeah, Jane?
Jerry, so if a person wanted a pawpaw tree that actually had fruit, you'd have to buy one from here and buy one from someplace else.
Yeah, you really
Right.
should have two if you're trying to get fruit. And I don't know if they know ahead of time if they're male or female.
Oh,
They're able to tell
you have
that.
a double problem there then. You have to get a male and a female, but they
Yeah.
can't be
They're right.
related. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They may have some way of telling that because they can tell that with bittersweet, because bittersweet is dioecious too. So you can buy male and female plants of bittersweet.
The deciduous holly that is, it's not holly, but if they sell it landscape, is also deciduous, and they can tell. I don't know how.
Dioecious.
Dioecious, yes. I don't know how they can tell which is which.
I think a lot of these older ancient tree species are dioecious. This monoecious thing is a newer evolutionary trait.
Jerry, this is
I'll
Janet.
look-
Jerry, hi. I took a webinar by Chris Benda earlier this year, or was it the end of last year, about winter tree ID, and it was kind of fascinating about the differences between thorns and spines. And based on his presentation, the honey locust thorns are true thorns, whereas the Osage orange thorns are actually called spines. And a spine is really, what did he call them? He called them, it's a modified leaf.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had
Well,
no idea of the difference.
that's interesting. Good to know.
Right.
Somebody
Jerry,
else? Go ahead. I can't see who's trying to.
Jerry, this is Barb Kober.
Hi, Barb.
Hi, I have a question about the odor on the pawpaw blossom or flower. You mentioned that it was fetid. Is it bad enough that you wouldn't want to have that odor, near your entranceway or something like that?
Connie Barlow in her book said that she could not smell it, but the flies can.
Oh, okay.
And because of the color, it's kind of like skunk cabbage and
Mhm.
wild ginger that bloom really early in the spring. And they have that rotten meat color, and that's rotten meat smelled in order to attract flies.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
beetles.
Thank you.
I think the leaves of pawpaw are really pretty in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Guy Smith bought one this year at the tree sale, and I don't think he's trying to grow fruit. I think he just wants it for the leaves.
Jerry, although the Osage orange has a high BTU, I wouldn't recommend it for standard firewood because it's impossible to split.
Never thought of that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Well, we've had more than 34 people on tonight, so
Great.
38, one person left early. And so we had a great turnout.
and Brian Hale is on. Brian, do you have anything to say about ordering trees? He's a coordinator for our tree and shrub sale.
Oh,
Well, I really haven't started thinking about that yet. I start really thinking about that in end of April, early May, when I first contact Possibility Place.
So if any of you are interested in any of these trees, let us know. We'll see if we can get them.
Hey, Jerry, I'm going to stop recording.
Okay. And if anybody wants to get some seed